All right, so this week we're going to be working on IKFKARM switching. This will probably be the most tricky thing you've worked on for rigging thus far. Ricardo seems to not enjoy that sentiment. Well, this is like a video game. You know, we start off with the easy stuff and you keep going up in the castle levels, right? So, well, you're going to be hitting the end-game boss soon enough, trust me. When you guys have to do your own rig, your own complete rig for your character. So you don't want to do that monster that, no. Well, joke's on you. That thing you made up in level 1, you now have to rig the entire thing in battle. Oh, God. Oh, no. So anyway, this week you're going to be working on this guy. His name is Arnold Palmer or Armand Hammer. Whatever. I don't care. Whatever name you want to come up with for him. So he is just an example. Basically, he's just a set of arms. That's the point. He's got a tail. He's got a head. He's got a little jetpack on him too. Which, just to let you know, just in case I wasn't clear, you have to rig the entire character. Okay? Okay, Brittany? The entire character. Not just the part that I show you in class. Okay, this is on the recording just to make sure we can play it back. Alright, so the thing with an IKFK switch is this basically employs the use of both IK and FK control schemes. Now, who wants to reiterate or just kind of re-explain to the class what an FK control scheme is? What does that FK mean? Does anyone remember? Forward kinematics. How does that work? What does that mean when you're controlling a character?
It goes like from the top down.
So, what do you mean by top down? So there we go. So what it means is I can go in and move. Let's switch this over. So what that means is I can go in and move this arm up and down from the elbow, shoulder, and wrist and move each one of those joints individually with it only affecting the child. Okay? What does IK mean? What does that stand for? And what does that do? Okay. So if I grab this wrist controller, I can now move it from the wrist, and I'm also moving the shoulder and the elbow at the same time. It's like a puppet. Yes. Exactly. So one of them is kind of like an action figure, where you can move each individual joint. And then the other one is kind of like a marionette. So what we're going to be doing is putting both of these control systems on one character. Now, where have we used FK before?
In the claw.
Exactly. Where have we used IK before?
In the legs.
Okay. So you guys should be able to do this without me demoing, right? All right, I'll see you next week. So we've already gone over really the hard part of this. You understand how to set up this control scheme. What do you think would be the way to set this up or to build this? Does anyone have any idea? So I guess let me show you kind of the control scheme first. So I have this little controller right here. If you notice, it follows the wrist. But then if I go and click on this little attribute right here, I can switch it over to a different control scheme from IK to FK. And you notice that it still controls the wrist, or it still follows the wrist. And then I can go back and forth. Does anyone have any inkling of how maybe this was set up? From what we already have done. Yes. Huh? Offset groups can be a part of this, but that's not necessarily how we set up this switch between the two systems.
Would it be like how we did the I thing, where like it's like independent and then dependent? So then.
So those were what? We've done this a few times. What? Set-driven keys. Exactly. So we're using set-driven keys to basically have this control scheme switch between two different setups. So what? So the way that we're going to be doing this is actually having 3 different joint setups in the ARM. One of them is going to be the skinning joints. That is going to be the system that is going to swap between its two parents, being, what do you think the two parents will be? FK and IK, and then that'll be driven by a set-driven key, and that's going to go for every single joint. Okay? And that's pretty much it. We're using set-driven keys to run the shoulder, elbow, and wrist controllers so that they turn off and on when we turn off and on the IK or FK system. We also are going to be using the set-driven keys to flip Orient constraints so that that skinning joint system or those skinning joints flip from one parent to the other. Okay? It's like they're being handed off for the weekend to their parent. Huh?
Is it meeting at a Starbucks?
I mean, it could be a Starbucks, you know, or it might be a Burger King on the side of the interstate. A Dairy Queen too, whatever. Hashtag divorced kids have problems too. It's all right. I can make that joke. All right. Something else we're going to be making sure to put in here is a Clavicle controller. You'll see this right here. This is kind of an interim shoulder joint. So if you guys all put your hand right here for me, raise your arm up. Okay. So when we raise our arm up, what happens to the shoulder? It rotates up, but it also moves up, right? So we have compression of the bones and muscles in here that's actually flexing our chest so that we can actually get a higher reach. So we want these characters to move like flesh and blood characters, right? Not action figures. If they were action figures, they would only do this. And they would get no further than this. Alrighty. Okay. So for the requirements for the rest of the rig, this guy has a tail. So it'll be up to you to figure out the way you want to control that tail. Probably a ribbon spine would be really cool to have in there. He also has a really short spine right through here. You could do a really short ribbon spine if you wanted to, or just a couple of FK controllers. Either one is fine. He has this wonderful backpack that is stuck to his back. This is how he gets around, a little jetpack. He's going to need a couple of controllers, one for each of these little winglets, and then probably some joints. They're going to go out and probably have a hinge somewhere right here so that he can move those wings around and fly around and do all sorts of weird acrobatics. I don't know what his backstory is, but he has no legs, so he needed a backpack. So this is how he gets around. The ultimate form of accessibility, right? Yeah. Plus he has a tail, and tails are cool. All right. And then don't forget the head. He has no eyes.
Thank you.
So don't worry about the eyes. Until next week, when we do faces. Do you see a mouth? No mouth.
Thank you.
But he has 6 fingers.
It's okay. I'm pretty sure that's going to take a lot of seconds.
Yes. Yes, it will. Exactly. All right. So let's go ahead and get this started. Any question about the assignment before I begin on this part? Okay. go ahead and jump over to the side. And what's the first thing we need to do on all of our rigs? Modify, freeze them transformations. What else? Delete all by type. History. Yes, we haven't even started the rig yet. So we can do all by type. What else? Give him a name. So what's I got Arnold Palmer here. Does anyone have a better name than Arnold Palmer? Okay. Boba Fett? He is not Boba Fett.
Arnie Fett.
Dumbo Fett.
He's the one with the guns. That's all I do.
Boba Fett.
So yeah, I guess that.
There's also Jango Fett.
Who's his daddy clone.
Yeah.
It's like his daddy brother. Which is kind of weird.
Is that weird?
It's a little weird. If we think about it, it's a little weird. It has nothing to do with anything, but The Mandalorian's coming on soon on Disney Plus, and I'm super excited for that. Yes?
On the Arm and Hammer OBJ file, both the jetpack and the person are the same mesh. Like, are they supposed to be the same, or are they supposed to be different?
You can separate them out. I'm just going to name him Arnold. So, Arnold what?
Or Geo.
But what part of his body is this? It's his body. Arnold body, Geo. Alright, he's got literally nothing else on his body except for his body. So then we got he's got nothing else on his body but his body. I mean, think of it, there's nothing else. There's no eyeballs, there's no teeth. You know? There's nothing else. That's all he's got, man. The kids aren't buying him for anything other than that jetpack. He was a bad decision in the design department. He's trying, so he is, yeah. He is like the Snake Eyes of G.I. Joe. You know the reason why he was cool? Is because Hasbro got lazy in 1983 when they released him, and they just didn't paint him. So he was black, just black plastic. That's it.
Is that like where we get the coolest shows always from people being lazy and just wanting to sell toys?
Maybe. But I'm just saying the fact that like they just wanted to cut costs when they made the toy. Now, I'm not underscoring the coolness of him, but it's, it's kind of a lazy start to life. In 2 years, people are going to be watching this video and be like, what in the hell are they talking about? I mean, it's kind of unfortunate, though, because you guys actually aren't even old enough to even remember G.I. Joe, like, in its original run.
What? Channing Tatum.
Michael Cleese the one.
No.
Cool and had you just watch like re-rendered.
Okay, so G.I. Joe is not that good anymore. If you go back and watch it, it does not hold up. It's fun to watch, but it is. I mean, it was cool when I was a kid. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But even like it was just slightly before my time as well, like literally a year or 2 years before my time. So
So like, where you fall on the Transformers? Like,
huh?
Like where are you on the Transformers? Like, is it before your time?
Transformers? No, actually that was like a year before me as well, because I was born in '86, and so I came in like tail end of Masters of the Universe.
Oh wow.
And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were like my jam, like all in the early 90s, like late 80s, like that was my obsession. Yeah. But I got a lot of like hand-me-down He-Man toys, and I love those.
I think my dad had the Megatron from when he turned into a gun. He had like the actual gun on it.
That's
You'll be good one.
you know, just for silly research, you should probably send me that link, you know.
What are the first few hits?
Tell you what, man, like toy collectors, some of them get really hardcore.
Yeah, they're selling individual parts. Like they've got the crotch just for $30.
Wow.
But like I've heard like some people like actually have that phase where like they'll make like toys that people don't actually like sell or market. Like that's the whole thing. Like I think someone just made like a whole night toy or something. Like is someone custom ordering it?
There's those ones that like
You talking about just making like custom toys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know plenty of people that do that. Like that's like their whole thing. Like that's their income, is they do that, and they do like a really good job on it too.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Yeah, there's a couple guys I know that really should be working like for companies, 'cause they're that good. All right, we got the parts named. What are we gonna do next? What are we gonna group this as? Armold what? Char group char. All right. Okay, what do I do next? Make another group with what? There you go. So what group is this going to be? Okay. All right. Need to make sure I have a geo layer. Okay. So, guess I'm ready to keep going now. All right, let's go start laying in some joints. What's going to be my first joint I'm going to work with? Okay. Where does the root go?
Like sternum and chest.
We're getting more humanoid now, so where do we put the root joint on the leg dude? Waist. Where on the waist?
Like
pelvis.
put it right above the groin.
So on the ostrich guy, if we stood him up straight, it'd be like right here, right? Yeah, so we're going to put the root joint right there as well. Granted, he has no legs, but we're going to make believe he does have legs. Okay?
So just in general, like that's where humanoid figures, that's where the root should go.
Right in the groin. And, okay, so let me explain why. So the reason why is because we have to have a root controller, and really the kind of center of mass for our body is going to be where?
Kinda like right.
Like this area. So we should be able to grab that controller and move basically the entire top portion of the body, which is going to start with the groin area. Then we work our way up the spine, and we can move everything we need, but we need to start with that area. It's going to be a really weird control scheme if you grab, say, the chest, and then you have to move like the spine from here down. That's a really weird way to animate. If you guys have been through character animation yet, you'll know what I'm talking about, but I don't think anyone has. Has anyone been through character? You're in character animation right now?
No, I took it last semester.
So where's all the root controllers coming from? Yeah. So can you imagine if you move that up to here, and then you had to make a character walk?
Oh.
That'd be painful.
Well, you're pretty experienced.
It would. It's called sucking, and that was what it would be. Now the funny thing is, if you have quadrupeds, you might actually end up like a dog, a four-legged animal. We all know what bipeds are, right? Those are two legs. Quadrupeds are, okay. Octopeds would be, yeah. So like for a dog, you might have what kind of amounts to as two roots, because you would have like the center mass for the front of the body and then the back of the body. That way you can do the taco dog maneuver, where it bends its body in half and then moves both the butt and the front half to you at the same time, because it wants to script jizz all over. Anyway, I'm clearly getting... Alright. He talked for 2.5 hours about toys and dogs. Alright, so let's go ahead and put a root joint here. I'm going to go ahead and throw in some joints down here for the tail. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put in a couple of joints right up here. All right, so this one's going to be called what? What's this one right at the top of the tail, base? What are we calling it? Root. Let's go ahead and put this one in the proper parenting position. So I'm going to grab the child, grab the parent, hit P, and now the root has domain over all the other joints, as it should be. All right, so this joint right here, what do you think this should be called? Spine. Yeah, base I think works a little bit better. Spine, base, joint. This will be spine joint 1. Spine joint 2. And then I'm going to do spine joint top. Okay. All right. You want to make sure that the spine, we have enough joints in here for him to be able to move basically just, you know, with a good enough range. It may actually be a halfway decent idea to put another joint right here. It feels like there probably should be something, just kind of looking at the spacing here, so I might actually put one right here. Now if I need to put in an extra joint, I can go under skeleton, insert joints. Let's do that again. Should be able just to drag it in from the parent to the child, but I think because the root has 2 sets of children, it doesn't like that. Let me try this real quick. There we go. It gets wonky sometimes. All right, put that back in. All right, so this one is going to be spine, base, joint. And then this one is going to be spine, joint 1. So the parent, you need to basically go from the parent and drag down to the child so you can insert a joint along that bone. Okay. Now I disconnected the tail because it wasn't sure, the tool was not sure which direction it needed to go in, and so it just made its own other extra joint. So just simplifying it, because normally the joints are going to have one basic or one child. So just by disconnecting this, it simplifies it to where the root only had one child instead too. So that's the reason why I disconnected it and had to reconnect it. Okay? Okay. All right, I'm going to adjust these just a little bit. Just make it a little more even. You guys remember what that joint tool I can use to kind of make sure all of my orientations are proper? Showed you guys last week.
The reorient thingy.
Yep, I can use Orient Joints. So I'm going to go back under Skeleton, Orient Joint, click Orient. So make sure everything's nice and even. All right. Tail joint base. Actually, let's do tail joint 1. I think I'm going to add an extra joint in there. Tail joint 2. Tail joint 3. Tail joint 4. And then tail joint, what's this one? Tip. Okay. All right. So I think I'd like to add an extra joint between the root and the first tail joint, so that there's like just a little extra piece of flexibility here in the waist, or right here at the tail base. So I'm gonna go and just kind of remove that. Come on, there we go. Okay. All right. Then take both these, or take the spine and the root, parent back together, and there we go. All right, let's go ahead and add in some joints for the head. So I'm going to have a neck joint right here. He has a really, really short neck. Generally for humanoids, I'm going to have at least 3 joints in the neck, one at the base, one at the middle, and one at the top, so that we get at least, you know, a decent amount of movement in here. Because like this is pretty flexible, right? Like we got a lot of flexibility in the neck. For him, he does not have a lot of movement. So I'm going to do basically a joint right here in the middle. And then I'm going to do another one just right above it. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a head tip joint. And so this will be the movement. This will be the place where the neck actually moves. And then this will be a joint for basically the base of the head to move against as well. So he'll have basically 2 points of articulation at the neck. So he can roll the neck around just a little bit. But he doesn't have a whole lot of movement. All right, let's go and take this. Neck, base, joint. Head, base, joint. Head, tip, joint. And then we need to connect this in with its family. So we're going to go ahead and grab child, parent, hit P. And we need to make sure that this orientation is proper. So let's go ahead and grab this joint right here. Go back to skeleton, orient joint. You'll see it rotates it over and it follows the rest of the joint chain. All right, any questions so far? We good? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go into, Actually, let's put in one more joint. So this is going to be the center chest joint right here. This is going to be my modular joint for where the arms are going to branch off of. So that's going to be right here in the middle. And then we can take that and put that under basically the spine top joint, which actually is going to be this one. I think I'm going to actually leave it on here because I think this makes a little more sense. Well, no, actually no. It needs to be spine top. Let's do this. There we go. Chest center joint. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and make the arm joints. So I'm going to start off with my clavicle joint. That's going to go right about here. And then we're going to do our shoulder joint. This is going to go in the center of the shoulder. So right here where the pivot's going to be. That's going to go down to the elbow, and then we're going to have a wrist right here. I'm going to go into my third person view, roll around, make sure this is down the center. That actually looks pretty decent. I'm going to go and take this, rotate this up. I need to move it a little bit this way. And then this is going to go where the wrist pivots right here. So make sure you check, make sure it's basically in the center. All right, for the wrist, I'm going to go ahead and put a joint right here in the center of the hand. This is going to be what's referred to as a null joint. Anyone have any idea what a null joint might do?
Just keeps it in place.
Huh?
Just keeps it in place.
Just keeps it what in place?
I guess kind of like stops the movement.
No, a null joint actually doesn't do anything, at least not in terms of skinning. It doesn't have any controls associated with it. It doesn't really do anything else, but it's a good place to attach things to. So that IK switch controller, that's where you would actually attach the IK handle or the IKFK switch to. If you have weapons that are going to go into the hand, this is going to switch between the two. It's going to actually be a place that you can attach that to that doesn't move. So the wrist rotates a lot. That's a lot of movement to it. And if you attach something to the wrist, there's a chance that it might break or it might move off somewhere you don't want it to go. So by having a little joint right here, you can essentially bypass that and give yourself a safe spot that's not a highly mobile joint like, say, fingers or wrist. Okie doke? Okay. So that's going to be my null joint. And then let's do fingers. So I'm going to go ahead and do a finger base joint right here. Actually, I'm sorry, it's going to be a little bit, it's going to be like a buried joint because you actually have a little bit of pivot a little bit further down when you spread the fingers out. So this is going to be your base joint right here. And for him, he really only needs like 2 joints in the fingers, like one at the base and then one at the midpoint. And then we'll have one at the tip right here. But if you're doing a human, how many joints do we have in our fingers? 3. Or your thumb, you actually have 3. Right here. This is a joint too. But visibly we have 2 joints. There's a little bit of a trick question there. So one of them gotcha questions. All right, so let's go and do another buried joint right here. Then we'll do our base, do our midpoint, and then do our tip. And then let's go ahead and put in okay. These are wildly off position, but that's okay because we're going to move them and basically trace back over them anyways. Like this is all basically just a sketch at this point. All right, so I'm going to go move these in position right there. Move this guy up. Okay, so I'm making sure that I'm basically trying to put this first joint for the thumb right where this pivot point would be right here. So if you kind of move your thumb left and right, you'll feel that it moves pretty far down, actually a lot further than you might originally think. So I'm just putting it right down there. This next joint is going to be right here where that first joint is for the thumb. And then the second one is going to be where the next joint is. In your modeling, you guys remember how I was telling you guys you should be doing like at least 3 edge loops, one above, one below, and one at each one of the joints? That will help you visually place your joints if you look at your meshes. Now he's got a lot of topology, so it's a little bit harder to tell, but that's one nice thing about retopoing with that in mind. Okay, null joint, right here, dead center of the hand. I think that'll work. I keep trying to make sure I get the fingers in the right orientation for the actual mesh. So it'd be kind of weird if we had the fingers bending and then like they bend like at a weird angle. That'd be kind of odd and awful. Okay. All right, let's do this one. Anyone has any questions while I'm...
So
Yeah.
the orientation of the tip hooks doesn't really matter because it's not connected to anything other than just itself.
Everything's going to get reoriented once I go back and retrace all the joint chains. But so right now, no. Like I'm heavily messing up my orientations pretty badly by going in and moving everything around. But this is all just a draft. That's all it is. Okay. I think that's good. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and do the joints for real. So let's go ahead and grab the joint tool. I'm going to hold down V. I'm going to go to the chest, and then I'm going to snap each one of these to their respective joints, and then I'm basically going to follow this first joint chain down the middle finger, pointer finger, whatever you want to call it. And then there we go. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this again. And then I'm going to snap from the null joint to this base joint. And I'm making sure to do it from the null joint just to make sure the orientations are proper for these first joints that are going to be mobile. So there we go. Alright, so this joint chain, that joint chain, and this joint chain are going to be used. I can go ahead and trash this one, and that one, and then also the arm. However, I do kind of want to keep that chest joint, or actually, I don't need to because it's not even connected. So I'm just going to go and take the 4 draft joint chains that I made hand with, delete those. This one right here, I do want that original chest joint that I made since it just has normal world orientations. So I want to go and take the clavicle joint right here, unparent it, delete that extra joint, and then reparent it to the original chest joint. And then I'm going to go ahead and take so the joint chains here for the thumb and the pinky both have an extra null joint in here. I don't need those. So I'm going to go ahead and take the child of both of those extra null joints, Shift P, unparent them.
Which ones are the null joints?
It's basically the parent of that joint chain of the pinky and the thumb. So I just unparented the first child. And then let's take this guy, thumb, pinky, null joint, and then hit P. And you'll see that each one of these is now a child of the parent, which is the null. Okay, so now we have the arm joints set up the way we want them. You with me so far? Yes? No? Is anyone not? You with me? Okay. All right, so I need to go ahead and rename some of these joints. What's this one going to be called? What have I been calling it? Clavicle. Clavicle joint.
Wouldn't that be the right one?
You're right. Actually, no, you're not right.
Left one.
Left. Clavicle joint left. shoulder joint left. Okay. Okay, what's this one?
No.
I'm putting wrist in here just so I remember that this is for the wrist. I mean, obviously from the parentage, I should be able to tell that, but I want to make sure because you never know. You might have another null joint in your system for whatever reason. Maybe your feet need a null joint for if you're doing like a monkey or something. I don't know. Whatever. Wrist null. Left. Okay. What's this one going to be? Okay. Okay. Index? Yeah, it's index, right? Yeah. So I'm trying to remember what the heck the name is. Index. Joint. Index base joint. Left. Index joint 1 left. Am I hearing food? Index joint tip left. This is so exciting, guys. All right, pinky joint base left. Oh, we're almost there. I can feel it. Pinky joint 1 left. All right, now 6 more times. Okay, so what we will need to do is go ahead and basically duplicate this joint system from left to right. So we're going to go under skeleton, mirror joints. It should be set up properly. So let's check it out. No, it did not. Now, it did say left to right, didn't it? Okay. So it said left to right. It said search for and replace left for right. It is uppercase. And I wasn't doing uppercase for everything. So we can do, I think some of them were uppercase. So maybe we can do 2 search parameters and do left, comma left. Maybe. I don't even, actually I'm not sure, 100% sure if this will work, but we'll see. All right. Nope. Nope. Okay, let's do left. Mirror. Okay, there's right. There's right. I'm gonna call that an absolute win. Okay, close enough. We're good. All right. So let's go ahead and save this real quick.
I saw in the box when you mirrored it, right next to behavior, there was also an option for orientation.
Yes.
Could we do both? Like, can we check it for both?
You want the orientation to mirror. So the behavior, because what we want, let's see, you want that. So I just leave it as it is for behavior, what I already have selected. And honestly, it's not going to matter that much because with the controllers, when you mirror them, you're still going to get this movability anyways. So just make sure that the mirroring is done at least to like this extent. You should be fine. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and make a couple more joints. So the backpack needs some joints, right? All right. So the backpack itself isn't really a flexible object, but I do want at least a joint here. And that's going to be the base joint for the backpack. And then I'm going to go ahead and go right here for where the pivot's going to be. And then I'm going to do a tip joint right there. Okay, just make sure that's all nice and positioned. And we'll do, I should just go name it first. Backpack wing joint base left, wing joint tip left, backpack joint base. Okay. We'll go to skeleton, mirror. Excellent. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on, let's reorient the joints. Actually, let's go and give it a parent first. So let's do the top of the spine. So it's gonna go into there. And then that should at least give this guy right here something to orient against. And then we'll go to skeleton, orient joint. And select these guys. Orient. Just to make sure everything works fine. Alright. Alright, I think that's like literally all the joints we need except for the IKFK for the arms. So I'm going to go ahead and click on these arms here. I'm going to hit Control D twice. That's going to duplicate the arms 2 times. So now we have 3 sets of arms, 3 arms for each side. Okay? So one of them is going to be the skinning, and one of them is going to be the IK, and one of them is going to be the FK. All right. Now, easy way for us to go ahead and make sure we keep track of this is I'm going to go ahead and grab the first set of joints, basically on the left and the right, and we're going to go in and do a search and replace names and put in skin left and skin right. Then we're going to do a search and replace for the next two sets and replace it with IK left, IK right, FK left, FK right. Okay? So we don't have to sit there and try to guess what's what. Alrighty? It doesn't really matter what order it's in. Just try to keep it in a consistent order for you to remember. Okie doke? Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and do grab actually both of these sets. And we'll do modify search and replace. What is common between these two sets? Okay, think about the hierarchy. If we keep going down the hierarchy on these two, is shoulder consistent between them all? No, what's consistent? Yeah, so we have J and T for left and right, so those are consistent. So it could really use either one of them. All right, so let's do shoulder J and T. And this one's gonna be shoulder J and T also. So it's gonna search for, let's do J and T. And it is going to replace with skinning J and T. And then we will go ahead and hit replace. So really we're kind of looking for shoulder, elbow, and wrist. Those are the three joints that we need to really pay attention to and make sure that they are there. All right, fingers we're actually not going to worry about, but we need to make sure we have those three. Right, Katie? You need to stand up for a minute? Okay. If you guys feel like you're falling asleep, feel free just to stand up and stretch your legs. Alrighty? In fact, you know what? Let's go and take a break for a few minutes. All right. So I went ahead and renamed the skinning joints here. I'm actually just going to leave them in position. And then I'm going to go down to the next shoulder joints right here. And we're going to do another search and replace. I am recording, right? Yes, okay. So I'm going to go back to modify, search and replace. And so this is going to be looking for J and T. It's going to replace it with IK. Replace. We're going to do the same thing for a third time. And do FK. You guys with me? So we're just basically just renaming these three sets of joints. Okie doke. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take both FK shoulder on left and right. I want to move it back. I'm not going to move it back like that, but let's do world orientation. Just move that straight back. I'm just moving the FKs together, and then I'm moving the IKs together, okay? Doesn't necessarily matter where I'm moving them to. I'm just simply moving them back to illustrate what I'm going to be doing with the Orient Constraints, okay? And yeah, so this is where you say, "Hello there, General Kenobi." grievous joke. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do my Orient Constraints now. So I need to click on both the parents and then the child. So the parent is going to be 1, 2. So it's going to be FK, IK, and then skinning. All right, since that's going to be the child here. Got it? So we're going to go and go to constrain. It's going to go to orient. And then I'm going to make sure maintain offset is turned on, although it shouldn't be needed because they should have the same orients. But either way, still make sure it's turned on. Click add. I'm going to do this for each one of these joints. And I'm only going to be doing this down to the wrist. Okay? And so let's go ahead and talk about what I don't need. So on these extra joint chains, I don't need anything really below the null. And the null really is only going to be there so I know that the actual wrist joints are rotating. So I'm going to delete the FK and IK finger joints. There are some other basically just joint setups where you would keep them, but for the sake of simplicity and for this assignment, we are not going to be keeping these. So I'm just going to delete this. Okay, so we're just simplifying these arms right here. All right, let's go ahead and run those Orient Constraints one more time. So that's going to be IKFK, and then we're going to be doing the child, which is going to be skinning. Let's go to Orient, parent, child, Orient, and then parent, child. Okay? So just double check, make sure we have Orient Constraints. I see an Orient Constraint here. We're good. So we're good there. And we're good here. Okay? Any confusion yet? Yeah.
You had the select tool when you separated them out. Did you right click on the move to get that menu, the tool settings?
What do you mean? Are you talking about when I expanded this in the outliner?
The move tool, the settings.
Oh, just double click on it.
Okay.
Just brings up the tool settings.
And you had a, is it like world orient?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure did. All right. So if I go ahead and click, so let's go and just kind of illustrate what just happened here. So if I click on this joint right here, we'll see that we have blue dashes next to rotate X, Y, and Z. What does that mean? It's constrained, so it has an incoming connection to something, right? Okay, so let's find out what happens if I go ahead and grab one of the two parents. We'll see that the child highlights purple. If I go ahead and rotate the shoulder, you'll see that the skinning joints here rotate, but at half value. Why is that?
Because it has separate, well,
Separate what?
parents.
Exactly. So mommy says walk over here, daddy doesn't do anything, so the child goes halfway in between mommy and daddy. Okay? Now if I wanted the child to go fully over to mommy or fully over to daddy, what would I do then?
You need to set the offset group.
Huh?
The offset group, you need to set it up.
Not an offset group. What would control the parentage of this Orient constraint? Switch it where?
Citrus.
Not, I mean, we're just kind of naming how it might be controlled, but like where would I go to turn it on and off? Okay, so I got shoulder right here. The only thing connected to it is a skinning left orient constraint 1 right here. So what values control where this joint is going to go? The parentage of it, well, the influence. Does anyone remember? Can someone come up here and point to it? Come on, give it a shot. See if you remember where this is.
These values up here.
Yep. So if I change one of these to 0, what do you think is going to happen?
It'll give full influence to whichever one is the one.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Good job. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're going to be making a lot of set-driven keys that are going to be basically controlling just the orient constraint and where it's being connected to. And that's it. So let's go ahead and move these control joints, FK and IK, back on top of the child joint. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down V, snap it back over, snap this back over. I'm going to snap these back over, okay? All right, so the IK, we're going to go and set that up. So let's do skeleton, IK handle, and I would like to have the ability to rotate the elbow. So if I have this thing in IK and I want to be able to rotate the elbow up or down, what do I need to do? What type of IK handle will I be using in order to do that?
Not the single chain, but the rotate.
Rotate, Sydney, what is it? Rotate.
Rotate plate solver.
Yes. So I want to make sure we have the rotate plane solver selected, and then I'm going to go ahead and go over to, let's go ahead and collapse the shoulder skinning joints. I'm going to go to shoulder IK, and we're going to go ahead and click on So I'm going to go wrist to shoulder, and you'll see that we get an effector pop up right here. And then you'll see we have an IK handle that pops up right here, okay? So then if I go ahead and click and drag the wrist around with the IK handle selected, you'll see now I get that wonderful IK movement. Ooh. All right, let's do that again on the other side. So let's go ahead and collapse the clavicle left. Let's go ahead and collapse the shoulder. Okay. I'm going to go and click on my IK handle tool right here, wrist, shoulder, and it gives me the handle right there that I need. Coolio? All right. See, this is easy. We're just like revisiting old things. Let's just review for you, right? Say what?
So I like this method of learning.
It's like I'm teaching you something. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go and get our controllers up actually. Let's see, I bet it didn't save, did it? No. Okay, I gotta load that thing again.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask you about that, so like, am I just have to reload it every time I start up a new, project, but even if I save my shelf, it still just keeps disappearing, so every time I close out, I need to keep reopening the screen.
So on my computer, I have okay, so in Windows, you actually do have a place you're supposed to be putting your scripts. I'm kind of halfway on doing it there and not doing it there. I have a folder that I just keep a whole bunch of scripts in, and then I just kind of link to those. And when I do save my shelf, it does save them. So I'm not sure why it doesn't save them here. It's kind of, it should save them. Like it should do that. But let me just show you where the folder is on these computers. Because I might be able just to drop it in here and it might work just fine. Anyway, documents, my 2018 scripts, and you can drop it in there. And you can also drop it in the preferences folder under scripts here and see if that'll keep it there too. So there's like 2 locations you can put them in. But this normal scripts folder should be fine. And then where that location is in Mac, it's somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a different location. I want to say it's like in your library, I think is where they have it. All right, let's go and open that script again. Desktop. I think it's in my desktop. Break 101. There it is. Okay. And source it.
Where opening and sourcing would be 2 different things?
Possibly. But usually it's not. Okay, let's go and open that up. Let's go and make some controllers here. I want to do a spear. Okay. Modify freeze transformations. I'm going to go and name this IKFK left con. And we will go ahead and snap this over to the null joint. And then I'm just going to go and move it over here, just somewhere out of the way. I usually like to put my IKFK switches like right here on the arm, just because that's usually like on the top of the arm, or top of the hand, you might have like finger controls, and then like maybe on the bottom you have like some other controller, or it usually might get messed up or kind of hidden when you like move your hand over this way. So I find putting it like right here makes a lot of sense, because that's usually not a place that's going to get hidden, or it's going to be an easier place to access. So as you guys kind of rig, you will figure out where you like to put controllers. And I tend to like to do it right there. So, and a lot of rigs I see tend to do that as well, so I'm cool with that. It's like being self-validated. And FYI, this is totally a system that can be applied for legs as well. A lot of rigs will have FK/IK switches on the legs. So if you're not walking, maybe if you have like a character that's like leaping or flying or something, they can switch over to FK, and you can control the legs a little bit more easily that way. All right, freeze transformations. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take this guy. I'm going to go ahead and group him to himself, and that's going to be IKFK con group. And then I will do a duplicate special. So now I have a controller over here. Just rename it right. And I will take this controller, and it is going to have to be parented to this null joint. So if I want this null joint to control, it's not going to be that null joint, actually it's going to be the skinning null joint. So if I want that skinning null joint to control where that controller right here is going to go, what might my approach be? Who can tell me? What would I do if I want the controller to follow the joint? If I wanted a controller to follow to make a joint follow it, parent constraint. So if what is going to be the order of selection to make the controller follow the joint?
Joint first, no, controller.
Yes. So let's go ahead and grab the null left joint. I'm sorry, that's not the right one. That's null right. Let's do this null left. Okay. Yes, okay. Grab that one. Constrain, parent. So now when I go ahead and grab and move that null, it'll move that controller with it, okay? Let's go ahead and give it a attribute, IKFK switch, float, minimum, maximum, 0 to 1. I click add. Now we got that right here. We literally need nothing else visible. Lock and hide selected. So we just have FKIK switch right there. All right. Do the same thing here. Add attribute. Okay, FK switch. Say what?
Set it into the maximum. You set the name in the max.
There we go. The minimum is literally that name. Okay. Okay, there we go.
What are we adding the attribute on?
The IKFK switch controllers. So that when we click them, we have the ability to switch IK and FK systems. And then we'll hide everything. Lock and hide. There we go. And then this guy is going to follow his null joint as well. Oh, that's right, because I have it hidden. I need to go ahead and actually unlock. If you ever need to bring back controllers that are locked and hidden, just go to channel control right here. And you can just go in and basically move it over. So I need to do translate, rotate XYZ. translate X, Y, Z. Just move it over. Now I can do the parent.
And to avoid that, we should parent it first.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, it only screwed me up just because I hit it before I parented it. Yeah. So risk null right. Parent. It's got another one it's trying to constrain to. Let's go back. Channel control. It's probably visibility. Actually, hang on. Oh yeah, that's because these are actually still locked. Sorry. Unlock selected. Let's try this again. Okay, will that work? There we go. Make sure this works. Yep. Now we can hide these. Okay, so we should be able good now. Double test that. Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and start making some controllers for the ARM. So let's go with, we're going to need some controllers for the clavicle. We'll do FK, and then we'll do the IK controller. So FK is going to be just 2 circles. Those will be fine. So this is going to be FK and then every time I duplicate that, it's going to give me something already with FK written in it. So let's go and take this guy, and I'm actually going to go ahead and group him to himself, so that's going to give me an offset group. FK offset group. This is important because I do not want this controller to get any transformations, rotations, anything like that on there, and also because I really want the orientations to stay consistent with the actual controller. So let me illustrate why this is important. The arm is not just shooting straight out from the side of the body. There are angles to this that are not congruent to X, Y, and Z, okay? If we just put controllers, let's say, if we could just go ahead and grab like this one, and then move this up here, and move that right here, and then did another one here, and then did another one here. What I'm doing is I'm basically rotating these FK controllers to where they will be kind of facing down the joint chain and giving me something that that basically gives me the rotational axis that makes sense for that joint. So like an elbow, for example, should probably rotate along like this axis right here, okay? Because that's gonna make sense for like this joint to move. Really, the elbow only rotates in one axis, right? Like I can't rotate my elbow backwards, I can't rotate my elbow up or down, I have to rotate the entire arm to do that, okay? So that's why I'm rotating each one of these controllers to accomplish that. And actually, to be fair, even this one needs to be probably rotated a little bit. Now, with each one of these controllers, you'll see that I have translates and rotates for all of this. How do I get rid of these? Freeze transformations. Okay, so let's follow this through. So if I go through and freeze my transformations, what happens to my rotational axes? They're reset to the world. So that means that if I want to close this arm, I don't have an easy access or an easy axis for me to do that. If I want to close the arm up, I have to kind of freehand it that way. And that's a pain in the butt, because you really should be able just to grab like one axis, like an X, Y, or Z, and rotate the arm up or down, forward and back, and close the elbows. And same thing for the wrist, okay? So that's the problem. You don't want to do this. Got it? Everyone with me? No bueno. Don't do this. So, in order to get around this, this is where offset groups are going to be coming in handy. With an offset group, which means we are taking a controller, grouping it to itself. So I'm grabbing that group, this one right here. You'll see that, again, we have that little FK controller nested inside. I can grab the group and move it. And I can rotate it. And I can really do whatever the hell I want with this thing. So we can snap it up to that joint. You'll see that the offset group has the translation, rotation in there, right? Okay. But if I click on the actual controller, it has none of that. So that's why I want this offset group. That's what it's going to give me. I don't have to go in there and freeze transformations now, because it doesn't maintain that. Its parent is taking all the brunt of that transformation for me. So that's what the offset group does. Okay? Do you guys understand why I'm going to be using these offset groups? Okie doke. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll probably shrink this guy down a little bit. Just like that. I'm using the offset group to scale it down. Do be aware that if you use an offset group and you do not uniformly scale it, and then you try to rotate that controller, that transformation and the scaling of the group is going to warp your controller. I've seen it happen on a couple of y'all's rigs already. You guys have actually asked me, why is this happening? It's because you're non-uniformly scaling an offset group, and then that translation of scale, that change, is being passed down into the child. All right? And it can't control it. So it's being told what form to take. So if you need to change the scale on this, just do it uniformly, and it makes it a lot easier. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a name. So this is going to be FK shoulder left offset group. This one's going to be FK shoulder left con. Let's go and duplicate. I'm duplicating the offset group, and move this guy down to the elbow. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate this to where it matches the axis of the elbow. Honestly, I'm just going to kind of move it in between. It doesn't necessarily have to match like this or this. I'm more interested in having this axis right here to where I can close the elbow more seamlessly. But if you would like something you can rotate the elbow on, you can probably just line it up with this axis right here. And I'm just kind of making sure it lines up with the palm as well, so we're good there. And I'm just going to rename this to elbow. And then the child is going to be renamed as well. All right. Guess what we're going to do now? I'm going to do the wrist. I'm going to duplicate it. We're going to move this down to the wrist. So I'm probably going to keep the same axis as the elbow. Just make sure it's nice and centered, and I think we're probably good. Okay. All right, I'm going to be stopping real quick, guys. And we'll just pick this up next week. Last thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and just create an FK chain real quick. So what I'm going to do is just take all three of these. The wrist offset group is going to go under the elbow left con. The elbow left offset group is going to go under the shoulder con. Okay, so that's going to create, sorry, let me move, yes. Okay, there we go. So we're going to get basically a pattern of offset group, con, offset group, con, offset group, con, offset group, con, and just kind of work your way down. And that's going to be the same way for the fingers. Okay, so just going to keep going all the way down. The fingers themselves actually will not be parented under the FK. They will be their own thing, and they're actually going to be parent constrained to the null joint for the wrist, for the skinning joint for the wrist, since they got to go with FK and IK. Okay? So if we just go ahead and test this, I don't have any rotations or transformations. This works, and that works. All right. Any questions so far?